Kyle Kuzma is not only an all-star, but is the most improved player this season. Yeah, I said it. What's happening, everybody? Jaden here from Hooper's Corner, and today we're going to be discussing Kyle Kuzma and why I believe that he not only is playing at an all-star caliber level this season, but should also be in the discussion for most improved player. In this past season, Kyle Kuzma got traded from the Los Angeles Lakers to the Washington Wizards in a monstrous 5-team trade that included Kuz, KCP, Montrezl Harrell, and the draft rights to rookie Isaiah Jackson being sent to the Wizards, and the Lakers receiving Russell Westbrook and 2 future seconds from Washington. On the surface level, you look at this trade and think, damn, the Wizards just got deep. And we saw that during the early parts of the season, but more recently, Kuz has turned it up a notch and is flourishing in his new environment, averaging 15.7 points per game, 30 assists and 8.7 rebounds, and in his last 10 games has come out with a double-double in 8 of those. We all know LA is a tough place to be for rookies to come, settle in, and sort of just be themselves. But for Kuz's first season, at least as a rookie, it was his best yet. In the 17-18 season, he averaged 16.1 points per game, 6.4 rebounds per game in over 77 games played across that season. And if we cast our minds back to that 17-18 Lakers team, he had guys like Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, who got drafted in the same year, guys like Jordan Clarkson, Julius Randle, Brandon Ingram, like that team. We cast our minds back to it. It was an interesting team. Like, obviously now we know in hindsight that team didn't necessarily work out, but you look at the pieces that they had, and that should have been, like, that Lakers team should have been a place where young guys like Kuz, like Lonzo, like Josh Hart could come in, develop, and then that team can sort of be maybe even like, I don't know, maybe this sounds stupid, maybe even be kind of like the Cavs this season. You know how the Cavs just have a lot of young guys, a lot of big guys, but a lot of young guys. And that 17-18 Lakers team could have been that, and we all know that it just didn't end up like that. They were in an interesting spot that year. Heaps of young guys, couple of vets, but that team, as I said, that Lakers team was ready to build with a young core. But the problem with all that, with all the young guys in the locker room and the spotlight that shines upon them when you play for the Lakers, and it just didn't really work out. You play for the Lakers, one of the biggest franchises in basketball, right? The most eyes, the most national coverage, and I don't think that a lot of the young guys in that locker room really necessarily knew how to handle that. And Kuz is a prize example of that fact. Most of the players that were with Kuz on that Laker team flourished when they moved from the Lakers. Look at the names that I just sort of mentioned there. Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram moved to the Pelicans, and then Lonzo then moved to the Bulls. And look at him. He moved to the Pelicans. He developed his game a little bit, worked in a little bit of a jump shot, and then he moves to the Bulls, and look at the Bulls now. Jordan Clarkson, 6th man of the year last season with the Jazz. Julius Randle, a little bit of a tough time at the moment, but no one can forget the end, like sort of towards the end of last season before the playoffs, how good Julius Randle was for the Knicks. He got that extension, and he's balling out. When he moved from LA, all these players came and went with Kuz, right? So Kuz was the only one that stayed after all of these people left, still in LA and still struggling with the spotlight that is on him. Then he moves to DC, and that pressure is off. DC is a low market team, not like the Lakers. High market team, lots of national coverage, lots of eyes. You can argue a lot of people that don't necessarily know about the game of basketball because it's the Lakers, right? It's Showtime, it's that franchise. So you have a lot less eyes on you, and you can sort of go there as a player, have some space, develop your game without the eyes and ears constantly looking and judging on what you're doing, and that's exactly what Kuz has done. Kuz can just be Kuz in DC, and is showing that tremendously. Now, as I said, the Wizards went through a pretty big shakeup in the offseason, acquiring pieces like Spencer Dinwiddie from the Nets, Aaron Holiday, and Corey Kispert more from the draft. And then you mix in Kuz, KCP, and Trez into that mix of players, and you look at the Wizards roster, and you're looking at it and saying it's a pretty deep roster compared to just a season ago. And I think that you look at the Wizards and it's more like it's a really, really good regular season team, right? 82 games a season. You have guys who can come in and out of the rotation, come in and out of the starting lineup, and sort of fill the gaps when guys like Bradley Beal, Spencer Dinwiddie need a rest. And then you look at that starting lineup and the preferred starting lineup for the Wizards, which this season at least, with all the guys healthy, has been Dinwiddie and Brad at the guard positions, and then in your front court you have KCP, Kuz, and Daniel Gafford. And you look at that starting lineup and you obviously see Bradley Beal as the first go-to option in that lineup, but then who's the second guy? You know what I mean? Like, who's that second guy that the Wizards can rely to run their offense through? And I think a lot of us going into the season thought it was going to be Spencer Dinwiddie as the guy who was that second fiddle to Bradley Beal. But he's recovering from an ACL injury. He only now, halfway through the season, has been cleared to play back-to-back games. So it wasn't him, right? And it wasn't going to be him, at least not yet. His natural self wasn't going to be there just yet. So that gap was there, and that gap is where Kuz stepped in. And I'm going to be honest, I did not see Kuzma being this Washington team's second option, but I can gladly say that I was wrong. He has embraced being one of Washington's go-to guys, and when he's got the ball in his hands and he's going downhill, you cannot stop him. He's a different beast when he gets his head down and he's going downhill. You compare Kuzma from the Lakers Kuzma and you compare him to the Wizards Kuzma, right? Granted, we have a lot bigger of a sample size when we're looking at the Lakers Kuzma compared to the Wizards Kuzma, but from what we have seen so far, this Wizards Kuzma is a lot different in terms of his shot selection. A lot less off-balance jumpers, a lot less just chucking up threes, and more sort of either getting their other guys involved, or he's making good plays in terms of his passing range, or he's just getting his head down, going downhill and going to the hoop, where he's a 6'10" power forward, can guard 1 through 5. And he's athletic, he's got the agility. That is an asset that he has just because of his frame, and he's using that to his advantage. And this season we can see it coming up trumps. He's shooting 45% from the field, 32% from beyond the arc, and in clutch situations, this is an interesting stat for you, he's shooting 51.3% from the field and 50% from threes in clutch situation. Kuzma also has more double-doubles than LeBron James, Joel Embiid, Karl Anthony Towns, and Luka Doncic. Kuzma is playing at an all-star level, and you can't be telling me that LaMarcus Aldridge, Bam Adebayo, and Pascal Siakam are currently playing better than this man. Those three guys are ahead of him in the all-star voting. Kuzma's not even in the top 10 for the Eastern Conference frontcourt in the all-star voting, and I understand people who vote in the all-star votings, but a lot of them don't know basketball. A lot of them are kids who just play 2K and don't understand basketball. That's why guys like Kyrie Irving are in the conversation for an all-star game. That's why guys like Klay Thompson are in the conversation for an all-star game. And I get that. But you can't be telling me that Kuzma is not playing better than these guys, right? Granted, Bam Adebayo injured for a lot of the season, which is why I don't think he deserves to be in the conversation there. Same thing with Pascal Siakam. If those guys were playing at the same level, like in terms of games wise, then sure, they can probably be ahead of Kuzma. But right now, at this point in time that we are talking about this conversation and talking about this topic, Kyle Kuzma deserves to at least be in the top 10 with a chance of being in the All-Star game. In terms of most improved player shouts, yes, I do believe that Kuz should be in that conversation, because look at the narrative surrounding him before the season started. People calling him a bum, saying he's washed. And to be fair, I was one of them. I was not a Kyle Kuzma fan whatsoever. I was looking at his time at LA and being like, man, this guy's a bum. But he has definitely proved me and a lot of people wrong. LA did not suit Kuz. There at LA, he was the third, maybe sometimes fourth option when he was on the floor with the likes of LeBron James and Anthony Davis. But at the Wizards, the bigger role, he is straight hooping, showing a massive improvement, not only in his jumper, but his defense, his overall basketball IQ. He's just transformed himself, I don't want to say to the same rookie he was in that 17-18 season, because I do think that he is better than that now. But he's transformed himself from the LeBron's fourth option to being this Wizards team's second. And I think that suits him a lot more. This season, the 1-2 punch, if you like to call it that, of Bradley Beal and Kyle Kuzma on the Wizards offense has been the secret to their success. The Wizards are an above 500 team. If you look at the Wizards this season compared to last season, they're on track to do a lot better, right? So last season, it had to take an incredible second half of the season for the Wizards to even make the play-in tournament and then to progress to make the playoffs. This season, I would argue that they're definitely going to be making the play-in tournament. I think that's a minimum for this Wizards team. But I can definitely see, with a solid second half of the season, them sneaking into the 5th or 6th seed. Just because the East is so competitive. You have a lot of teams in and around the same position. I think in the East right now, you have teams records-wise, pretty much the same record going all the way down to 11th place. And we've just talked about how the Wizards roster is so deep in terms of a regular season roster. You still have guys like Denny Avdia. You have guys like Rui Hachimura just coming back. You have guys like Thomas Bryant, who's a floor spacing 5. Can even play the 4 coming back as well. And you had guys like Kuzma in there, who's straight hooping right now. You have guys like Spencer Dinwiddie, who's slowly getting better and better due to his ACL injury. Bradley Beal is slowly getting back to his form last season, that his all-NBA season, right? Guys like Daniel Gafford, Montrezl Harrell. The Wizards are deep, man. And with Kyle Kuzma playing the way that he is, being that second option on this Wizards offense, who knows, man? 5th or 6th seed. To finish up, I gotta say how much Kuz has been impressing me this season, and that is 100% down to the change of environment, how much he's embraced his role in DC. So yeah, this man's an all-star and a candidate for most improved player. If you guys liked the video, then show us some love, click the like button down below and comment as well on your thoughts on Kuzma this season. Click that subscribe button for more content just like this one. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.